July and August 2016 tied as the hottest months in modern times. The World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, warned that the consequences of warming at this rate could soon spell disaster. They say 2016 will be the hottest year since records began 137 years ago and are urging world leaders to implement the Paris Agreement as soon as possible.
The need to ratify and, even more importantly, to implement the Paris Agreement is more urgent than ever before. Our planet is really sending distress signals, and we need to act. We need to cut greenhouse gas emissions dramatically and quickly.
Carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere are also at record highs. China and the US, the biggest climate change culprits, agreed to ratify the Paris Agreement earlier this month. The effect of warming in the oceans is already wreaking havoc, with coral bleaching of unprecedented proportions. Some climatologists say that the bleaching and extreme weather suggests climate change is advancing quicker than anticipated.
Congress is running out of time to block a controversial proposal that would allow the FBI to hack victims of cyber crimes. RT's Simone Del Rosario reports on the fast-approaching deadline that, if missed, could compromise security for hundreds of thousands of people here and abroad.
If you get hacked by a criminal, you could get hacked again, this time by the government tasked with your protection. That's how an amendment to Federal Rule 41 of criminal procedure works. And if Congress does nothing to stop it, it goes into effect December 1st. The proposed changes would regularly allow judges to issue search warrants to hack into computers outside their jurisdiction. And a single search warrant could serve to hack into numerous computers in multiple jurisdictions. So a judge in Texas could issue a single warrant to hack into computers in California, Alaska, New York, even beyond our borders. The government says the changes are necessary to keep up with cross-border internet crimes. The civil rights activists are concerned of the far-reaching implications and lack of oversight, especially when it comes to investigating botnets, where thousands or even millions of private computers are infected with malicious software. To source it, these proposed rule changes would allow the Department of Justice to hack the victims' computers, something technology experts say is not necessary to get results. And the burden to notify you of that search is limited, to say the least. This expansion of hacking and searching privileges has not gone through Congress. It's been created through the courts, but Congress can stop it. Democratic Senator Ron Wyden and Republican Senator Rand Paul put forth a bill called Stopping Mass Hacking. Passing it could keep these changes from going into effect. But Congress has a long to-do list this year, and if it's not given priority, changes to Rule 41 could slip right through.
Last month, the U.S. Supreme Court approved changes to Rule 41, a part of the criminal code that governs hacking authority. Supporters say the change will help agencies like the FBI fight cybercrime, but opponents call it unconstitutional. For more, I'm joined by Justin Harvey, Chief Security Officer at Fidelis Cybersecurity. Justin, let's start with a little cyber history lesson. What is Criminal Rule 41, and how has it evolved through the U.S. court system?
Well, Criminal Rule number 41, before the change, talked about reasonable search and seizure and essentially the steps that the FBI or law enforcement need to go through in order to obtain forensic evidence. The change, Rule 41, essentially stipulates that as long as law enforcement has a reasonable expectation to recover evidence, that they can hack anyone, anywhere in the country by asking any federal magistrate or judge where the crime is suspected to have happened.
Violence has flared up in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces say they shot dead a Palestinian after he wounded a soldier. In a separate incident, a car carrying 2 people rammed into a bus stop, injuring 3 civilians near Hebron. Police say one of the assailants has been killed, the other wounded. In East Jerusalem, Israeli forces have shot a knife-wielding attacker. He was killed at the heavily patrolled Damascus Gate, a main entrance to Jerusalem's walled Old City. Police claim he ran towards a group of officers waving a knife before they opened fire. The man, believed to live in Jordan, had another knife about his person. At least 213 Palestinians have died in violent incidents since last October in the West Bank, East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. Authorities and residents of Fujian province in southeastern China are dealing with the aftermath of Typhoon Meranti. The storm crashed into the area with strong winds and lashing rain, leaving a trail of devastation, destroying crops and homes and leaving at least 10 people dead. Power lines are down and around 1.65 million homes are without electricity. The typhoon hit the southern part of Taiwan on Wednesday and was classified a Category 5 typhoon by the Tropical Storm Risk Storm Tracker, the strongest classification available.
Yes, I'm told the command post is about 3 miles down this road, but unfavorable weather conditions overnight caused a disruption. Vapor settled over this rural area, making it unsafe for workers. Because of that disruption, Colonial Pipeline is now saying the restart of the fuel line will be next week. In his declaration of a state of emergency, the governor says part of the reason for the declaration is because the leak is still not fixed after almost a week of when it was discovered. Colonial Pipeline says the state of emergency will allow for a waiver to let fuel truck drivers drive for 12 hours. That's part of contingency plans to help mitigate any disruptions of fuel distribution caused by the leak. Colonial Pipeline says Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and South Carolina will be the first states impacted by any potential disruption.
Remember stop and frisk? The unconstitutional practice of cops stopping and frisking someone only because they look suspicious? Now cops have upped the ante. Police across the country are stopping people who have not committed a crime and having them give up some of their spit for DNA collection. It's even scarier than stop and frisk because now cops are doing it to people they don't even suspect of sketchy activity. Now they're just doing it to random people to compile DNA samples, just to build DNA databases of everyone so that their tracking will be that much more complete. During nonviolent encounters with police, like when you get caught riding a bike without a helmet or going through a red light, people are being asked to turn over their DNA by letting the cops swab the inside of their mouth. Now, cops are supposed to ask for it. It's supposed to be voluntary. But more often than not, cops make it seem like it's mandatory, just the way they ask. So people just do it, especially teens who are already scared of getting in trouble. Their parents are nowhere to be found. They don't realize they have a choice. They don't even realize what it is. And they certainly don't even realize it's raising a big constitutional question. Under the Fourth Amendment, cops must have reasonable suspicion a person is doing something criminal before requiring a search or seizure. But since cops are asking people to give up their DNA voluntarily, they're getting around those pesky constitutional rights. And it's becoming so popular that business is booming for DNA collection companies. Now, cops can analyze a person's DNA right at the station in just 90 minutes at automated rapid DNA machines. Cops across the country agree DNA collection is the wave of the future. Bigger cities enter the DNA samples into the FBI's national database, where they're regulated. But smaller cities are partnering with private labs that offer faster, cheaper testing for a local database of citizens where there is zero oversight. It's the ultimate form of tracking, and it's becoming more and more popular. It is surveillance at a level that would blow even Orwell's mind. Makes you kind of long for the days when a cop would just pat you down for no reason and then let you go. With stop and spit, the cops will be watching you forever.